Welcome to Suffolk Matters, where all of Suffolk County meets the men and women of Suffolk AME. News, opinions, and insights you won't hear anywhere else.
Welcome to another edition of Suffolk Matters on Walk 97.5 and 94.3 The Shark, where Suffolk County meets the men and women of Suffolk AME. News and views you can't hear anywhere else.
My guests this morning are the members of the Long Island Firefighters Legislative Committee. We have Bill Thies, James Rand, and Don Corkery joining us this morning. And before we even get going here, I hope that I know enough to know that maybe I'm not the person that's best suited for this. I'd like to have Tom Moran jump in. He's Executive Vice President at AME, past Chief of the North Lindenhurst Fire District, and currently working out of Farmingville as well, doing volunteer fire work. And Tom, I think this is more your wheelhouse than anyone else on our team, so I'm turning it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Dan, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with some of my brothers in the fire service. If each of you could just tell me what departments you're with and what your title is there.
All right, Don Corkery, Commissioner in Sayville Fire District, also First Vice President of Association of Fire Districts, New York State, and as we mentioned before, involved in the Long Island Legislative Committee.
All right, Bill Thies, Terryville Fire Department, past commissioner for 30 years, captain of Company 5, also vice chair of the Long Island Legislative Fire Districts Committee.
James Rant, Commissioner, Terryville Fire District, for the past 12 years. I'm also a 38-year member of the Terryville Fire Department, ex-captain of Engine Company Number 1, and I'm a AME retiree.
Excellent. It's a pleasure to have all of you here today. Let's dive right in. What is the fire service all about, and why are volunteer firefighters so essential as a component to our suburban community?
I'll be honest with you. I've been in almost 48 years. I joined the fire department because a lot of my friends were there. And the fire department made me the man I am today. I mean, it's just a thrilling thing to go out there and protect our neighbors 24/7. We're out there, cats in trees, houses on fire, babies being born. And all the years that I've been in the fire service, just that we're doing this to protect our neighbors. When they put their head on that pillow at night, they know that people will be there to protect them.
Neighbors helping neighbors is what it's all about. That's the true mark of it.
Excellent. Now, if we could, just let's share a little information to our listeners about the Legislative Committee and its purpose for the greater Long Island region.
Yeah, I can go back. Actually, I'm a commissioner for 35 years. The Ledge Committee was formed probably 10 years before that. So we'll say 45 years ago, the fire districts of Nassau and Suffolk got together, created a committee for just to work on the legislative issues, because even way back then, they found that we needed a group that was dedicated just to handle the legislative issues, but not only statewide, countywide, but the local issues with our towns and stuff like that. And, over the years, obviously our friends in government have been good to us as volunteer firefighters, and they understand, why we protect. But sometimes I'll use the term butt heads with them a little bit over some legislation. And we need people like the three of us here to go out and make our point to them. Most of the time, the point is, a good point that's either saving taxpayers' money or protecting our districts better.
So, Don, I've known you for a lot of years. If I could you all have a wealth of time in the fire service, but touch on what a typical day as a volunteer firefighter is for each of you.
Well, it's, as volunteers, you have families, you have a job, you have a life, and you made a commitment to your community to help out in the fire and EMS service. So, basically when you're not at work, when you're home, alarm comes through, you try and get down there, you try and get on the rig, try and help out, carry out what your training and experience has taught you to do. And again, we did it because we were concerned about our communities. That's why we all joined to help out there. It's as far as, local neighborhoods and communities go, you have a little bit higher of a calling when somebody wants the fire department. Somebody's in trouble. They need you.
Yeah, I just made 50 years in the service in Sayville, and as you know, I started off in Wyandanch as a neighbor to my buddy over here, and the race. Believe it or not, racing got me into it. I always loved the racing teams, and the thrill of that. And that's we talk about recruitment and retention in the fire service. That's one of the things that we still believe draws young firemen to it. The racing aspect. There are some technical things that you learn as a racer. And Tommy and I were both drivers together. Now, I don't drive anymore, but you still drive. You still got your hand in it. But it's as I said before, neighbors helping neighbors. That's what it in a simple line. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, either your family's involved or somebody or the firematic drill team part of it. Everybody gets involved, and there's certain ways that we do help to retain and keep our members. It used to be years ago, we were made up of tradesmen. Everybody was a tradesman. Now we have younger kids. They really, they're a different generation where they're really not technical, hands-on type. So that's why we need the people to stay around that have a lot of time in the service to pass along that knowledge. So everybody that does get involved does it to help their community and to make it a better place for their neighbors. So just a few weeks ago, we had Senator Brooks in our studio. And him being a volunteer firefighter himself with the Seaford Fire Department, he's been a strong advocate in Albany for all things fire-related. What's been your dealings with Senator Brooks?
Well, I'll be honest with you. We have to tip our hats to Senator Brooks, the EMS recovery course bill. It's been in the legislation for 16 years. This gentleman's been a senator for 5 years, and it's come out of the Senate for the last 4. He's been a champion to try and protect and get this bill for the 465 municipalities that could use this in the state. I have nothing but respect for this guy. He has stood up there. He's taken on criticism, but he's always been there for the firefighters.
Yeah, no, he's a regular guy. He's a regular guy doing a super job as a senator. As you said before, he's an ex-chief from the Seaford Fire Department, which is great. And he talks about heart. He gave us a speech. We were up in his office last week, and he almost made us all cry because he gave us I guess, guys, we'd call it a pep talk, right? To get this, the ambulance bill passed. And, he was, you could see, he was visibly, it was coming from the heart with him. And that's the kind of person he is. So it's incredible.
Yeah, very heartfelt. Very heartfelt. You can see he's a true volunteer, a driving force behind this bill, and the public should be glad to have him as their servant in the Senate. He is really top-notch.
Just the passion he has
Yeah.
for everything that he does. You could, like Don and Jimmy said, you could see it. He was speaking from his heart.
He took this ambulance bill over, but also he's very passionate about something near and dear to me, residential sprinklers, which is a talk for another day. And he really believes strongly about that. So,
And yeah, it's part of the mantra we've kind of been speaking about here. Is you get involved, and then at one point he got involved in the fire service, and now look where it's taken him. And to have people in the union world that's been advocating for this, for the people on your side on the fire service advocating, it's all about lifting everybody up with this hard work. I know last year he championed a bill designating our 911 operators to have first responder status. Of course, we've spoken about how our 911 operators in Suffolk, our telecommunicators, how they day in and day out, they're the ones that are the first people that know about an emergency. They're talking to people at worst times probably of their life, and maybe it's only a one-time experience. Hopefully for every one of them, they're talking to a professional. That hears the worst things that could go on in someone's life, whether it's a fire, an EMS emergency, even on the police side of someone being assaulted or a robbery. So we were thrilled that that got signed in, that it got signed in on 9/11, the 20th anniversary of 9/11. It really speaks volumes for someone that would be pushing that so far. But I wanted to get your take on, you deal with our AME, you deal with our AME members that work in those titles on a daily basis. Anytime somebody dials 911 for one of those types of emergency, you guys are getting alerted for it in your respective departments. But how do you feel that work transitions into helping you guys to do your jobs every day?
Definitely, Tom. As you know, I worked for the county, just like you. I was the deputy commissioner of Suffolk, and I always had the highest respect for the dispatchers. I used to call it the dungeon downstairs. Did you guys call it? I don't remember if you called it that. But, you're downstairs.
Just a room without windows.
You don't get a chance to. And Tommy said it right. You're dealing with people at the worst possible time of their lives, hands down. And the people in your group are true professionals. And I was so happy when that bill went through. And they get the information that we need to do our jobs better. They tell the chief, hey, listen, this is what we got. This is what you're going into. They put their spin on it a little bit. They know if we're going to work. Work means that the house is really on fire. Chief, it sounds like you got work here. You can hear screaming back in the back. You can hear crackling. And, the dispatchers are truly professional people that deserve that bill that you just talked about.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, a lot of people, of course, volunteer. Firefighters are first responders, ambulance personnel too, but a lot of time the public doesn't see. As a fire or police dispatcher, you're on the phone with somebody who's, their child's in trouble or drowning, their husband's having a heart attack, and the family's screaming in the background, and you got to keep your head and get these people through that. That's a first responder too. Communications, absolutely, important to the service.
And the A1 thing is the dispatches. That's the first call that they get for an emergency. And then, like Don said, and Jimmy, they're very courteous. They give us an idea of what we're doing, but we're all a team, from starting with the dispatches till we go home after the call.
Yeah, I've spoken on our show about it before. I've done this for many years. I've been on the phone when someone's taking their first breath, and the person that's taken when a baby's born, and then unfortunately I've been on the phone when someone's taking their last breath, and it's a struggle sometimes. Again, you have to keep a cool, calm head about this, and you're basically that lifeline until somebody can get there and physically be with that person and start rendering the care. But there was a great thing that we were able to move through. It not only encompassed our members in Suffolk County, this went across the state. Yep. This gave the status to the FDNY dispatchers. It gave it to anybody that basically fell into that title. So we were very proud to work with it. We're very proud for someone like Senator Brooks to help champion this and move it forward. But I want to get back to the EMS Cost Recovery Act, because some of our listeners might not be familiar with what that is. Names sometimes on bills, they if you don't read into it, you don't really understand what it is. So let's talk about.
No, he'll
okay.
start.
Okay, so let's talk about this. How it affects Long Island, how it affects Suffolk County, as far as EMS calls, and what it means right now, or what the meat and potatoes so much of the bill is all about.
Well, currently fire districts and fire departments on Long Island are not allowed to bill for ambulance service. And when I say by that, I mean private insurance companies, Medicare, Medicaid, because we levy tax money to support our fire and EMS. The problem is with the advancements in medical care and pre-hospital care, in the levels of training, resorting to have to hire personnel because in a lot of places EMS has grown beyond what the volunteers alone can handle. So you have some fire departments and fire districts that have volunteer and paid personnel. It's grown beyond what we could keep reaching in the taxpayer's pocket about. We have to have the ability to bill now at this point to supplement that because, like I said, it's grown out of control. It really has, and we need that ability to keep supporting this service, to keep the taxes down for the people of our communities, and be able to provide life-saving service. The bottom line, again, it all comes to saving lives and keeping people alive and providing what's best for the people who depend on us, the fire department, to be there for them. So that's why it's called fair play for cost recovery, because it will kind of even the playing field for us, for community ambulance services, for private ambulance services, and that's basically the meat and potatoes of it. I mean, we need to do this to keep a line on taxes and possibly reduce them.
I think everybody in this circle here has a very vast background. I can speak for myself. I've been out of the chief's office 10 years, and I'm sure across the board, and you guys have probably seen it as well. Every year, our call volume increases every single year. If you drive around anywhere in Suffolk County, you see more and more housing going up. We've, in a post-COVID or coming out of COVID, we've seen that people from the city have migrated and decided they want to, they want to move to Suffolk County. Our population has increased. Along with that, a lot of these people are working from their homes. So there's a lot more people. And I don't think that people really understand that each year we see calls go up and up and up across the county, but broken down into departments, up and up and up, as well as other services that come into town, urgent cares and doctors' offices. A lot of that stuff, I don't think the public really understands just how many times a year those ambulances are rolling.
We do 3,700 ambulance calls last year in Terryville. We had to put on 2 crews with the pandemic. The pandemic killed us. Our budget's like $6.7 million, $3.1 million to run the ambulance. With this bill, we're trying to recoup some money, which the people are already paying through their insurances. It's not going to cost the taxpayers a penny. If the bill doesn't go through, then we're going to have to probably increase taxes. With this bill, we do not want to increase taxes.
And that's a real important part of it is that, with every year the calls going up and the demand for more and more services, that money is going to have to come from somewhere. Whereas what you touched on was that there's sort of a mechanism right now where it's already paid for if you're able to recoup those funds from each time that ambulance goes on a call.
And it's going to be soft billing. We're going to put the bill out there and try and recoup our money. We need this. I don't have to tell you. A thumper is $60,000. A new ambulance is $400,000. You have to pay our paramedics. We are giving the best service out there that we possibly can to our residents. And that's every district on Long Island. We're doing the right thing. And as we go back, it's a time now that new members are coming in. They might have to work 2 jobs to survive. They don't have the time. With this, some districts might be able to hire new paramedics full-time to where we are there to taking care of our neighbors, like Don says, neighbors helping neighbors. And my bottom line is, how much is it to save a life? This is really a thing that will help every community without increasing their taxes.
Tommy, we're looking at a number of 60 million, 61 million actually, 49,941 in Suffolk and 11 million in Nassau. That money is out there to help defray the cost of EMS. So it makes perfect sense, to put this bill on the table and get it passed. That simple.
And again, these services that you're providing, again, with the call volume increasing and the population increasing, somewhere that money has to come from. And that's just, that's not, we're not talking about $10 here. We're talking about a lot of money that it costs to it. 3,700 alarms in Terryville. What's the size of Terryville's district?
5.5 square miles, something like that.
So for 5.5 square miles,
Talking like 11, 12 alarms a day.
yeah, you're basically going out, and also when you go out on an EMS alarm, it's not an over and done thing in 20 minutes.
No,
There's-
no.
You're talking about an hour to an hour and a half at most points that these responders are from the time they leave the building. They're doing patient care. They're doing their PCRs, getting that ambulance back into service, so they can go handle the next emergency, which is coming right behind the last one.
And with the pandemic, our members never stopped. Whether you have paid paramedics on your fire department or the volunteers, they came out for every call. We are the true first responders of the state of New York, the volunteers. They're doing it 24/7. I have all the respect for the doctors and the nurses, but we are the first responders of the state, and no one should ever forget that. We're out there 24/7. And like I said, with this bill, it'll take a little burden off the taxpayers, so we do not have to increase their taxes.
And Billy likes what I always say. I think we're the National Guard. We are, and not taking any away from our friends in the service, but we are the quickest to mobilize in any situation anywhere. Go back to 9/11. Who was there to back up New York City? Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester, Sussex County, New Jersey. Most people don't know that we covered the firehouses in New York City while all that was going on. The governor didn't know that until I told the staff that at a meeting that we recently had. She was flabbergasted. Oh my God, we didn't know that.
The taxpayers are the residents are a little uneducated because a lot of them, like you said, moved from the city. They think we're being paid. They don't have the slightest idea we're volunteering our time, whether it's firefighter 1, whether it's paramedic classes, whether it's
Any kind of training.
any kind of training. Our members are putting in 20 to 25 hours a day, and that's coming out of their hard-earned time. You have to have a great wife who believes that you're doing it because you leave your dinner table a lot of times. And I have to speak to you. You were an ex-chief. You know what I'm talking about. When that alarm goes off, you're gone.
Yep.
Yeah, and as well, with all of this still, we still have to provide fire protection too. On top of this, we still got to get fire trucks out. We still got to buy them and train them, put fuel in them, and put guys in good turnout gear and train them to put fires out too. So we're trying to support that too. That's why this bill is of such critical importance.
I wanted to touch on some of the other stuff. In the endangering the welfare of the first responder. That bill brings attentions to landlords who illegally modify egress for tenants. You can all speak for your areas. I know in Farmingville, where I'm a member now, sometimes you go on a call and you see that, there is maybe a basement apartment with no access to get outside, small little windows. But what do you see this bill, if comes to fruition, how it would affect the fire service?
Yeah, well, this is a no-brainer too. It stops landlords from subdividing their houses. That before a firefighter, and Tommy and I can tell you, as a chief, when we get there, we look at the building and we size it up and we say, okay, this is a normal building. Looks like 3 bedrooms. There's probably people in each bedroom, and then they subdivide it, and now we have 10 or 15 people in a house that we think has 3 people in it. I could tell you a fire in Sayville 30 years ago. I went through, it was a rooming house. It was changed to a rooming house where they subdivided, and I was turning mattresses. I was doing a search on the second floor, and I was going nuts. I was turning mattresses over, and I thought, I went from room to room, and I thought I was back in the same room. So it takes its toll on a firefighter because you see a normal house, you expect a normal house, you don't expect a room subdivided maybe 2 or 3 times. So this is a necessary thing as well. And like you said, not only the firefighters are taught when they get to the front step with the hose line, they put their air pack on. They take a quick snapshot of the house so they see how many windows they are. They see where they can get out. They see where they entered and so on. And Tom will tell you the same thing. A lot of times you get in there and it's a subdivided basement where they have an unauthorized apartment. And we go down the basement stairs and we run into two walls or doors. And it's not a good thing when there's a fire. You know, I understand people have to live. I know the governor tried to do a good thing and let this subdivision of all these ancillary apartments go through. But in our business, it's a nightmare. Speaking for the firefighters in New York, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, I think Don hit it spot on, and that's something that's going to protect the firemen too. I mean, all of that and then getting in there, like Don had said before, walking into a maze. And you're walking into a maze under high heat, smoke conditions, bunker gear on, 40 pounds of breathing apparatus, carrying tools with you too. It makes a dangerous job even more dangerous for no good reason.
So responders show up at a house and maybe there's some type of civil unrest going on. Have you seen that in any of your areas where some of the responders, have been put in danger? They're put between maybe themselves and a family member that are trying to help, and somebody else in the house is upset that you're there, and they're going to try to, they're going to try to endanger one of them by hurting some of our first responders. Oh
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an occurrence as you know yourself, happens all the time. I mean, some of the first responders, in my department, have encountered things like, a gun underneath a pillow or a knife. And of course we try and have PD get there and secure the scene, before we put our people through there. But, you just never know. I mean, we go above and beyond, trying to protect our people. They're going there to help you. We don't want them getting hurt. So like I said, ideally, most of the time we can have, the police department secure the scene and, before we insert our people in. But you never know. There's been times where something comes up, just like you said, you don't know.
That's like we touched about before, where we get the great work from the dispatchers to let us know what's going on without call. They'll try and have an idea in their voice or whatever things are happening. And we, like I said, that dispatcher is the start of the call to let us know where we're going to. And I could speak on sitting on the other side of that, of being the dispatcher. Unfortunately, sometimes you hear people in the service saying, what they said wasn't what happened. We get a phone call and say that we can go by what a person tells us is basically what we can do. We always don't have all the information. And sometimes, like Jimmy said, you walk into something that you didn't think that you were going to, or they're keeping that information held back because they don't want to get in trouble because maybe they have a firearm in the house, maybe they have some illegal narcotics in the house, but they know that they need help. So let's call the fire department because they're not going to come in and arrest me. They're going to come and help me. But then you get on scene and find out it's something totally different. So again, the work of the dispatchers is greatly important to gather as much information. And unfortunately, sometimes we don't get all the information because we're not given all that information.
Crazy. One of the worst ones I've ever gone to. I was president of State Chiefs back in 2014, and it was up north of Albany. I can't remember which town it was, but the fire department ambulance showed up. The information was a woman in need of emergency care. Nothing about the altercation between her husband and her was given to the dispatcher. And the EMT walked in. The husband shot the EMT dead right away. I don't know if you remember that one. It was, and I remember, I was up in Albany, and I actually drove up there and spoke to the family. And he knocked on the door, and you could hear the woman moaning and screaming. Opened up the door, and the husband was sitting there with a rifle and shot him right in the chest.
It's a terrible situation, especially again, with the volunteers that are basically doing
Yeah.
things to help their neighbors.
Crazy.
And put themselves in harm. It's really been great. Once again, the guests here today have been part of the Long Island Firefighters Legislative Committee. Have been part of the Long Island Firefighters Legislative Committee. Bill Thies, the vice chair. James Rant, one of the members, and Don Corkery, a past president. I thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. And I think we really did a great thing today on a Sunday morning, educating the people about just what the fire service does, but more importantly, the advocacy that you are doing on your behalf for all the members, not only just in Suffolk County, but on the state level, to make their jobs better, to make it better on the taxpayers for not having, the work you're doing is putting money back into the taxpayers' pockets because you're not having to go there on your individual departments and raise the tax money because of the services that you're trying to support, for taking money that's basically already there in place and just having the ability to bill for it. So I thank you for being part of it today. And,
Thank you for having us. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
One thing I'd like to say is that all the officials from Long Island, I'd like to thank them the way they've gone across the aisle to get these bills through. They deserve a debt of gratitude, Brooks, all of them, to getting these bills passed.
And that's a huge part of it, too. Again, we all represent a lot of members, a lot of volunteers. Anybody that's been to the firehouse, you can't get 8 guys to agree on what they want to eat for dinner. Mm-hmm. But, we have a lot that sit on either side of the aisle. That is their that's their beliefs, and that's the people that they support. But once we get all these people together and work together for the common good of the fire service, I think it benefits all of the members as a whole.
And being vice chair of the Long Island Legislation Committee, I'd like to thank Suffolk AME for giving this opportunity to get the word out there on how you guys support us as firefighters.
It's appreciated. Again, one of the biggest parts of the union world is solidarity. And we stick together with our partners in other unions, but also people in our community. And that's the great work that you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
for
Tom,
having us.
for your service, too. It's great to be able to sit here and speak with somebody who's in the trenches. And AME, as a retiree, I'm twice as proud because my union is backing up this cause. And thank you, Dan, also. And we're gonna run this ball over the goal line.
Thanks. Have a great day, everybody.